Okay. And we are recording.
Okay.
Welcome to paranormalxl podcast. Mama Mary and Gigi here. Still a crazy ass world going on right now, but Mama and I I think we decided not to announce that yet, or did we? You do know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
We can announce it now.
Okay. I was going to let you go for it. Go ahead.
Well, we're getting ready to come out with an internet radio station called Across the Golden Veil. We're working on it right now. It should be out. The playlists are in the process right now, and it should be up and ready coming out this weekend with several different podcasts, including ours, just all about the spirituality, paranormal, and true crime. And the main goal is to kind of raise the vibration of the universe, kind of put a message out there and give a platform for all sorts of different kind of podcasts. Pretty excited about it. It's been a lot of work, a lot of frustration, a lot of cussing and swearing.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody else is listening. Walking away and coming back. Where the hell did that come from? Because it wasn't working before. But one of those kind of things.
That's funny. Now, with that, we are discussing on 2 days a month doing live broadcasting, because now we have the ability to do that, where you as listeners can call in, interact with us. If you have questions right then and there, you don't have to worry about trying to email us, track us down in some way to ask us a question. You can call in no matter the topic that we're covering. So I think it's going to be really awesome for us and for you guys, and so we can touch base. And Mama will be on there to do readings and everything. It's just another platform for us besides how you listen to us already. But the live shows, I think, are going to be big for us as far as Paranormal XL goes.
Well, yeah, it'll definitely give us a way to be more interactive.
Right. So that'll be. I'm excited for that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, we will put links and stuff out to all that stuff as well. So it'll be easy for you guys to find. Like she said, we've been working on some things. She's been working really hard on it. And then when I say little things here and there, trying to fit together for it. And then also with that, we'll have the ability to do like live video streaming as well, not just on Facebook. Because we do enjoy doing like the Facebook stuff, but that limits who can see, who can watch, that type of thing. We want to be able to go about it and hit all the outlets that we can with it.
Well, there'll also be a website that'll link it, and then we'll have the apps that you can download onto your phone where you can go and listen to it anywhere you go. So you'll be able to access our podcast no matter where you're at, and also download any other information as well.
Right.
And it'll link us to the YouTube videos and each of our podcasts.
Right. It's going to be awesome. It's just going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah, it is.
So, okay. With this extra time that we've had, we wanted to find a topic with some digging and research involved. So we came up with alchemy. So with that, like Mama and I were just talking before we got started here, there's so much with it. She can dig into it a lot more than I can. The information I have is like clearly what I have researched, what I was told. Coming from a psychic medium, you're going to get a little more in-depth version and description of it. So I think that'll help out anybody that's got questions with it. I'll start out with saying what in the dictionary alchemy is. The medieval forerunner of chemistry based on the supposed transformation of matter. It was concerned particularly with attempts to convert base metals into gold or to find a universal elixir. That's weird. And another one, alchemy is the very old study and philosophy of how to change basic substances such as, what is it with the metals? Okay, hold on. Into other substances. It also studied how substances were related to magic and astrology. People who studied alchemy were called alchemists. Well, duh. Sorry. So is it, okay, let's see. Because they got me thrown around because like we just talked about the science and with the spiritual part. So it is linked. But how these substances, is it the energy that comes off these metals, or because they put them in as magic and astrology?
Well, see, when you study alchemy, it can be really confusing. And so alchemy today, when you look at it, it's really based solely on chemistry. It's all about science. It's all about transmutation. And when you read about the metals, it's all about taking a metal taking, some kind of base material, creating a chemical reaction, and turning it into a metal base. That's what alchemy is, based on scientific fact. That's what they consider it. Now, over 2,000 years ago, science and spirituality were one and the same. They were combined. And so they took magic and science and they considered it the same thing until Christianity came along. When Christianity came along, there was two different books. Okay, you had the Book of Faith and you had the Book of Magic. Now there's a couple of theories, and there's a book I'm reading. There's a couple of theories on what this book is. But they say when the Christianity came into play, they took this other book and they hid it away. Okay. And all that was left was the Bible. And some theorize that this book is the Book of Solomon, which is, a book of magic, so to speak. And it's all about, the Book of Solomon is kind of like the Jewish principle. So when you look up alchemy and those signs and symbols, you're going to connect them with the Jewish religion. And one of the biggest things that I find fascinating is one of the hidden treasures. They took away the treasures when Christianity took these books and they hid them so that nobody would be able to see the other side of the truth. They didn't want anybody to know the other part of this kind of spirituality because they wanted Christianity to take over. And they took these symbols and these hidden truths of the universe and they put them into a book that was on separate pages. And theorists say these separate pages are your tarot decks. So your Book of Solomon, your universal truth, is all in your tarot deck. So when you talked about before wanting to look up your symbols and you wanted to look up the symbols of alchemy, your major arcana, those are your symbols. If you take the time to look at a tarot deck, those are the secrets of the universe. That's a part of alchemy that you're not going to get today, looking it up. But if you dig deep into the ancient alchemy and you read the books, that's the truth. Alchemy is all about the universal truth and universal secrets. And that's what's fascinating about the tarot decks is the theorists say that when the Christianity came in, they separated these two books because it used to be religion, and they took them and they put them into a secret message before the messages could be completely done away with. They wanted that hidden truth gone. And so to find that hidden truth, that's what we think about the divinative tools and the occult. They're considered evil by, Christianity.
You guys can't see what she's doing, but she's putting quotations around some of her words, and it's really funny.
I'm quotating it. Well,
yes.
If you think about it, that could be considered a conspiracy. Way back when you were talking 2,000 years ago, they split those books up. This is the Book of Solomon, or maybe it's a different book. That's my theory, and that could be wrong.
Okay. Right.
But they split these books up and they created this whole theory that this is all evil to keep you from the real truth. That's because if you knew the truth, there would be no basis to that religion.
We can't handle the truth, first of all. And I think it was Carol Baskins that separated the books, that fucking Carol Baskins. I mean,
you never know.
I was waiting for it. I was like, I know there's a lag. Because we are recording over Skype today.
Okay, I'm Baskins.
You were looking all serious, then all of a sudden you're like, oh. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. It's just perfect timing. So alchemy. So why? Okay, to me, I guess, well, before any of this, I didn't understand even what alchemy was. I just thought it was fun to say.
It sounds very magical and spiritual.
It does, and that's why I always thought it was a type of magic. Now, why
in a sense it is. It's an ancient magic.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
And it is. It's the ancient truth before it got kind of hidden away. And so when you think about spiritual alchemy, it's kind of concerned with freeing your spiritual self, which is like kind of trapped. And it's sort of like when we talked about the spiritual growth and the ascension. It's all the parts of us that are trapped inside that we need to free in order to spiritually grow. That's what spiritual alchemy is. It's just a different way of going about it. It's changing the matters of our energy and it's just it's separate. Alchemy today, like I said, is solely based on chemistry. That's why when you start researching, you're like, oh, this is kind of boring. But when
Right, I'm
you
like,
get
wait a
into the
minute.
ancient alchemy, it's not.
Yeah. Okay. So is it? Would you say alchemy is like a broad term as far as
It
what
is.
it means to one
It
person?
can be a very broad term.
Because like when we
It is
obviously
yes.
talk about it, we're talking about ancient alchemy, and then the normal people talk about it. It would be the science part of it. Right? I'm so confused.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
I kind of have it, but then I'm like
Well,
trying to relate the two.
do you remember that day I came over and we did that ritual where we opened a circle and we contacted Aunt Jane?
Yes.
And when I called the corners and I talked about the transmutation of darkness into light, I was calling the corners, but I was doing it in a way that you would in ancient alchemy. And I didn't necessarily know that. I've learned that through meditation and what I was shown on how to do it, because that's where I connect with the most. That's where, like a homage would. It's sort of like, reading the book that I'm reading now. When Jesus was born, it wasn't 3 wise men that crossed the desert. It was 3 mages. And those are technically wise men, but they're spiritual masters. They're mediums. They're the ancient. That's where I would be, the ancient healers.
Right.
So those ones who know all, the self-mastery, the mastery of your own energy. It's a different way of thinking it.
Right. I'm like, right. No, that makes sense. I'm trying to look through my notes here. Now, is there good and bad alchemy?
I think there probably is. Just with anything that you would do, there's, white and dark magic. It's all with your intent.
All right.
Alchemy is all about your growth. And so if you're going to use negative energy because you think you're going to create something for your own egotistical gain, that would be bad alchemy, because that defeats the purpose. Because you're supposed to be spiritually growing and ascending and releasing, your lower energies to connect with your higher self. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's sort of like the 7 stages you go through now. It's just a different way of putting it.
Sorry.
See, I got the book I found, and because I started reading this, so I'm not allowed to give away the title, but I took the kids on a shopping spree, and we went to Barnes & Noble, and the poor kids, they stood there with me for 20 minutes. And I don't know what I was doing. I'm like, there's a book I'm supposed to get here. I don't know what the book is, but I'm supposed to have it. And I said, I can't leave until I have it. So I'm standing in the metaphysical, the metaphysical section, and they're being patient with me, and they're just waiting. And I'm looking through all the books, and I've been through all the books. I know what they all are. I know the tarot decks. Once you've seen them all, you've seen them. And I'm looking through them, and then all of a sudden I see this small little book that was kind of turned to the side, and I pull it out. I'm like, yep, that's it. And then, so I pull it out, and it took me a couple of months to read it. But then I just want to read, I found it fascinating, a couple of pages, but I want to read the one page. If it kind of explains what the alchemy kind of is to faiths, if you want to listen to it. Okay? And so it says, indeed, the antipathy and even the open war of the official church against all that deals with the domain of magic, which, like a personal and emancipated priesthood, is due to causes which are necessary and even inherent to the social and hierarchical constitution of the Christian priesthood. The church ignores magic because it must ignore it or it'll perish, as we shall prove later on, and also does not recognize that its mysterious founder was greeted in his crib by the 3 monsters. That is to say, the heretic ambassadors from the 3 parts of the known world and from the 3 analogical worlds of the occult philosophy. And then, so I remember reading that, and that kind of stuck with me. I'm like, you know what? Page 7. I'm going to remember that page, because it kind of stuck with me. And then so I moved to the next page, and then it says, but let us pass over little things and the little men of the late empire and get to the Middle Ages. Here, now take this book and read the 7th page, and then sit down behind this coat, which I shall
which I shall lay down, and we roll back the coverings before your eyes. Your head is churning, and it is not, and you feel as if the earth is fleeing from beneath your feet. Hold firm and do not look. The vertigo stops, and we are there. Stand up and open your eyes, but do not allow yourself to make any Christian sign, pronounce any Christian. So it kind of stuck with me, like whoever wrote this book knew that whoever was reading that 7th page, if it was a really impactful book, that 7th page was going to impact them, because on that next page, he was already opening another part of that story going, okay, here we are. I'm going to open up a story for you, and I'm going to talk to you about that 7th page, where I think that's the truth, where that's where alchemy is based. We're never going to have that complete full story because it was ripped away from us. That kind of makes sense.
Right. And we're trying to piece it together.
I think in order to piece it together, we need to look into the Book of Solomon and Solomon's Key. I think those are all part of alchemy. When we talk about the symbols in the tarot deck, the Book of Solomon is that second book that was taken when Christianity came into play, and they split up those books.
Right.
Because that was the very first part of that book. Is those you had the Book of Magic and the Book of Religion, and they were considered two separate books, but you used both of them in order to have your faith. And the Christians only wanted the one because they knew the other one was more powerful. And so they wanted to do away with it because it would end up in their demise. And the book I'm reading has been around for an extremely long time, like hundreds of years. It's just been not rewritten, but somebody translated it.
Right.
Sort of like, people translated the Bible. And so I find that fascinating. It intrigues me, kind of sucks you in. The idea of it. There's something to think about, that maybe we should do more research with, the Book of Solomon and Solomon's Key. I remember when I first started getting into to spirituality, the first book I almost read was the Key to Solomon. And I was very drawn to it. I'm like, I don't know, that sounds kind of witchy. People might judge me. So I didn't. And maybe I should have, because there's probably a reason for that. But there's several different levels of, the spiritual alchemy, which they kind of compared to, rather, the same as, regular alchemy, like calcination, which is like the process of heating and decomposing raw matter. So basically, in this aspect, you are, it's like a calcination process of heating and decomposing of like raw matter. So in other words, like breaking down parts of ourselves in our way, like our own, that gets in the way of our own happiness. So things that we do that block our own happiness. Maybe those small little patterns those bad habits, like even if we know, I don't know, I'm trying to think, because I've come so far in that process, but the little things that we might do where we're aware of that keep us from being completely happy. Even like we know that getting irritated by that person takes away our happiness, we're just going to do it anyway. Right. Even though we're really not irritated, we're just doing it by habit. Just that like calcination, breaking down that energy, that's like the first stage. And then, disillusion, once we've gotten past those characteristics, then we can get a feeling of less identification with the false sense of self. We let go more of the way we were raised to think of ourselves and tap into more the spiritual side of ourselves, kind of like where you're getting at more now, where you're letting go of the person you were raised to think you're supposed to be and tapping in more now of that spiritual side where it feels good to be. Does that make sense?
Don't be telling my secrets.
Well, I think anybody does that.
No, I'm just kidding. No, that
you know what I mean?
No, it makes sense.
Letting go of what our parents have showed us what to do. Where some of us takes a longer, but letting go of what our parents,
society itself told us to be
conditioned.
Yeah.
Well, even TV.
Yeah. We're told to be a certain way, or we're supposed to be this certain way. That would be the norm. But what do I want to say? I don't know who thought they were holy and mighty to say, okay, yep, this is the norm. This other thing isn't, because really there is no normal. And I'm going to go off on a tangent here if I keep going.
Well, yeah, there is no real normal. There's just your normal.
Right. It's
That's
who you
pretty
are.
much it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that society's problem is we have so many people who suffer from anxiety because they base their beliefs on everybody else's. And so they live in this fear of wondering what's wrong with them when there's nothing wrong with them.
Right. They're getting, what do I say, spiritually pushed into going the spiritual way, but then society's holding them back. So then they're stuck in the middle, and then you're like, holy shit. And it's so overwhelming. I'm not saying you don't got to jump into spirituality all at once, but don't knock it, because then you just get hate. Is any of this making sense? To me? It makes sense, but
no, it does.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, because you're always worried about the feedback you get from people.
Oh yeah, that's, I think, the human nature in us that we can't help it.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, in the long run, if it doesn't fucking matter, because I'm the one that's got to sleep at night. I'm the one that's got to take care of myself. I got to provide for my family. And what they say or do shouldn't alter my decisions on doing that and doing what I know that I need to do.
That's right. At the end of the day, they don't pay your bills.
Yeah, exactly. Shit, I barely pay my bills. I'm kidding.
Well, the third stage is what? Sometimes it's hard to pay your bills.
Yeah, it is. I hear that, especially now. Fucking Rona.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, with this alchemy and this magic, we talked about it when we tried to record, what was it, last week, and everything and anything that could possibly electronically go wrong went wrong. I had a statement that I wanted to say, kind of like, but there's science, spirituality, and then, okay, I'm trying to visualize this. Okay, I got two circles here. They're completely separate, but then you got alchemy, which would be like the circle in the middle, and it end up being gray. Am I right on thinking that way?
Well, in a sense,
because it can kind of go either way.
Area.
It sure is. I don't even know where to start wrapping my head around it, because it can go into the science and then it goes into the spiritual stuff. But I'm like, wait, because we are taught, okay, science is science and spiritual, like, but then you get alchemy and then you're like, wait, what?
And that's where it's confusing, because, it used to be one and the same. And that's where it all went wrong, I guess.
Hold on. Yeah, once I started, because I was like, yay, alchemy, and I've always seen it in my list of topics that we wanted to cover, and like when I first started reading the descriptions, and there was a couple different descriptions, so I got them from a few different places, but it was like, to me, that wasn't what I didn't think I would jump into when I first looked it up. I thought it would go into something spiritual. Here we go, da-da-da. No, they're like iron and metals and I'm like, wait a minute. But at the same time, now that I'm like saying everything out loud and but like we take energy. Is it the energy from those things?
That's what it's all about. It's all about the energy. And it's the energy of the manifestation. That's where you get the magic from.
Okay.
And that's where you create, that's where you manifest, is raising the energy for it. That's where you create the transmutation. That's where you create the change, is taking, something of matter and changing the energy of it and manifesting something out of it. And, it's just, I think that's where there's that confusion with alchemy, is because there is that hidden truth, and you have to do that meditation. You have to spiritual work to delve into the truth of alchemy. And then, you got the third stage of alchemy, which is separation, which is one of the hardest parts, is being able to separate your emotions from your thoughts, where being able to, being in a situation where somebody could do something that's trying to tick you off and be like, yep, you're stupid. And it affects you emotionally. And then, that's one of the biggest stages of the game, really. Then you have the next stage of the game, which is conjunction, where it's kind of like you've learned it, you combined all of it. It's a conjunction of it all, where you accept it for what it is, and you accept yourself for the authentic self. And you kind of grow yourself after that into the next stage spiritually. And then you could just continue to grow spiritually after that, to the next thing. That's what alchemy, spiritualized is all about. The King Solomon, from my understanding, he was, they deemed him evil because he was a king that used magic, and he had seers. They used to use astrology and things like that to tell them their fortunes and their future for, the greatest good of the kingdom. So when other religions came around, they deemed that evil. And I'm not going to speculate as to why they would deem it evil, but I would like to get into more about the story of King Solomon, because I've always been drawn to that. I think I have pets that I bought, all his symbols and his signs that JJ always steals from me, because he says, he goes, you don't know what this symbol is? He goes, this protects you. You should wear this because it keeps you safe. I'm like, okay, get away from me, 10-year-old freak. No, I didn't call him a freak.
I know.
he just knows more about
Get
it
out of
than
here,
I
you're
do.
grounded. That is funny. I can hear all your movements. Can you maybe down a letter? Oh, man. Oh, apparently I was not prepared for this one. I have a shit ton of notes, but I lost myself.
That's okay.
And so I kind of figured you're teaching me this stuff.
You can go on forever with alchemy. You really can. Like the tree of life, when they talk about the tree of life, really alchemy is a Jewish thing.
Okay.
The more you research alchemy, it really is a Jewish religion, which is so weird, because you're really thinking to yourself as you go along, witchcraft, alchemy, Judaism. It's just such a weird combination to think of it, where a Jewish religion would do magic. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it fascinates me the more I get into it myself with the research in general. But it really is. It's a Jewish religion. It's all their language. But you talk about, I think it's pronounced the Kabbalah, which is the tree of life, which is their if you look at it, it's several different circles that go from like the shoulders to like the throat chakra and all over. And it's basically segments of the body that are energy centers, which is their tree of life, which is their circuits of energy. And it's a map for creation. It shows humankind how to consciously join together the forces of evolution. And if you learn how to map the energies together, it allows you the opportunity to transform yourself in the world that's around you. It's just a different way of looking at it. It's a really, alchemy is just a different kind of religion. And it's a different way of I guess it would be spirituality and a way of looking into Christianity versus being a Christian. Alchemy is a way of being Jewish. I don't know. It's something to look into. And don't quote me on it. It's something that I have been researching for a couple of months, but is it a way of being without being Jewish? Is it a way of looking into it? You know what I'm saying? Is it a way of having faith without being completely Jewish? It's fascinating because it's something that draws you in and feeds your soul. There's truth to it in some shape or form. Just like a transmutation circle. Like when I was talking about when I was calling the corners and calling the circle when we were calling an Aunt Jane, that's what a transmutation circle is. When I talk about drawing sigils, and that's a lot of people do, is a transmutation circle. I drew it all out for you because I had planned to, be with you when we were doing it. I was going to show you how to do it, so I'll send it to you. But basically, it's the Jewish star, the Star of David.
Yeah.
And then first it's the octagon, and then it's the Star of David, and then it's the Jewish symbols. And then you can put the part of alchemy in there is, let's say you wanted the power to fly, in a sense, figuratively, where you could soar above the people who are against you. You wanted to be able to soar, above them. You would put your feather right into the middle of that circle, that transmutation circle. And you would sit there and you would say your prayer. that transmutation circle, that's your manifestation. That's your alchemy. You're turning that matter of that feather into your manifestation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's your transmutation. And so when I say, your transmutation of darkness into light, you're manifesting that. So symbolically, with that feather, you're going to enable your energy to rise and soar above your enemies. Is that a basic way of explaining it? That's the most basic way I can explain it. Like, or you could put a rock in the middle of your transmutation circle, and you're rock solid. There's nothing that can move you. You see what it's sort of like that. That's kind of like the most basic. It goes a lot deeper than that, but that's for the listeners. That's the basic way that I could explain it. Where if you wanted to manifest something that's empowering to you, where you could grow spiritually, what can I do to feed my soul and to grow strong? What do I let go of fear? Do you put a string in the middle of it that represents your fear and cut it in half? And in that transmutation circle, that's your representation of letting go of fear. You're cutting it in half. And then the next time you meditate, you cut that string in half again, and it's more fear that you let go. It's sort of like that. Sometimes magic isn't necessarily you're going to wave a wand and you have $1 million, but what can I manifest to grow and be better the next day?
Right.
That's kind of like that theory. What can I do to heal?
Interesting.
I might have gotten a little too deep. I'm sorry.
It's getting deep. Everybody put your boots on.
No shit.
That is funny. No, this would have been a good one to be able to do together, but we are practicing our social distancing and doing the right thing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm about done with it.
Oh yeah. And I'll send it to you because like the circle has, certain symbols for like Mercury and gold. And that's where, the alchemy, where the metals come in, where the theory is the metals are what manifest your energy for you. And they all have, certain meanings. Now, do I dare to know like every single meaning? No. A lot of the things that I've done when it regards to alchemy, I'm not going to lie. I've looked up something and I said, oh, I really like that. And then I've created my own meditation. I've done a meditation and wrote down what I've gotten from that meditation and did something the next day. A lot of the stuff I've gotten is just from pure meditation and sitting there and writing it down. And then one day I'm watching something, I'm like, oh, that's what that is. Okay. And so a lot of the stuff I'm saying, I know what I'm talking about, but I don't know exactly what I'm talking about. I just know what I've been shown. I don't necessarily know exactly what it is. It all comes together in pieces in the end, but that's the way it should be, I think. I think you should tell your own story and be given the rest of it at the end. You have to discover your own story. I have no idea what that. I know what that means, but other people are like, what the hell are you talking about?
Now you're talking
that's
like me.
There. That's my own alchemy. That's my own alchemy story. I could go on forever.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, yeah, it's kind of a rabbit hole. You just kind of keep going and then it takes you into many different things. But just spirituality, paranormal, all in itself does that. You get going.
But it does. You can go just about anywhere with it. You really can.
Yeah, because it links up. You could eventually get anything that we've talked about linked up to anything somehow, even scientific terms. With our 50-something episodes or whatever that we got out, you could probably take each one of those episodes and link it. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say now, but I know what I'm trying to say. But you could link it up to the science part of things.
And you could listen to an episode and create a whole new episode off of it.
I say, yeah, we've combined a few episodes into one before.
Yeah.
Whoops. But is there anything else you want to say on alchemy? I feel enlightened.
That's about it. I kind of just want to be able to touch base on the ancient part of it, because I know that when you research it, it doesn't really give you anything, because there isn't anything unless you really have pulled up old books and said, oh, that's what that is.
Right.
It's,
yeah, because it's got it.
It can be. No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm saying in my research, like it went through and listed like modern alchemy, which we kind of discussed. No, I can't find it. Oh, come the heck on here. Alchemy from different locations, like Chinese alchemy. I got in India or Indian alchemy, Arabic alchemy, like Latin alchemy. I mean, they're kind of essentially all the same things, but I don't know. To me, I get lost because I'm not in that science mode. So I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Because it all comes from, you know, a famous scientist from there. Some, you know, yeah, I don't know. I guess I need it basic because some things I just cannot wrap my head around. Clearly.
Well, yeah, especially when you're looking it up thinking that it's something spiritual. Because when you listen to things from the spiritual world, they talk about alchemy. And then when you look up alchemy, they don't give you anything spiritual. And
Right.
It's confusing.
That it is. So, you know what? There'll be a day when we touch back on this and we'll get into the ancient part. We'll do some together research sometime.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I can get a little easier understanding. I need some visuals. That's just how I go. So
I'll send you the pictures of the circles.
Okay. I love circle pictures. they're my favorite. All right. So with all that being said, so keep listening to the awesome episodes and stay tuned to hear more about the internet radio. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. The name of it.
Across the Golden Veil.
And I know that because I typed it out today and I just said crossover is what I have down here on my notes. Crossing over the veil. No, crossing the Golden Veil. I just murdered that. So, yeah.
It's okay. It's close enough.
Keep listening for updates and stuff on that. And with adding this into what we already do, you guys as listeners will be able to interact with us as we do that. We're going to plan on setting the same dates each month, 2 times a month. So that way you guys can be like, okay, on the 13th, they're going to be on at 7 or whatever. But that way you guys know each time when to tune in and stuff like that. So it makes it easier for all of us. So yeah, that's like super exciting. So remember to email us at paranormalxl@writeme.com. Also check out the Facebook for upcoming things. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Go to patreon.com/paranormalxl to see what extras you can get from listening. And remember, don't yuck someone else's yum.
Ever.
I was waiting for it. Stupid delay.